You're searching for positivity this morning.
Good morning, Mully. Yeah, it's going to be a tough Monday in Chicago. I think there could be some overreaction. There certainly will be a appropriate reaction. That one stunk. It was worse than people imagined, but it was familiar in many ways. This is not the first time when they've gone to Detroit, come out of that building, and we talk about the meltdown in Motown. We've used that one before, and whether the coach is Mark Trestman or John Fox or Matt Nagy or Matt Eberflus, Ben Johnson joins a long list of coaches that have gotten embarrassed by the Lions.
Yes, and I mean, there is a theme to every game as we talk about, and there are themes that come out of the game, but going into that game, that was Ben Johnson's return, and that was Ben Johnson back in Detroit, and boy, the Lions fans embarrassed themselves as far as I'm concerned with their reaction to the head coach.
Bit over the top.
A little bit much.
Bit over the top. Fans are going to do that.
Yeah, that's okay for fans to do. My fear now is I fear the Flusy revenge game.
Do you really?
I mean, can you believe they won in double overtime?
Cowboys are coming in hot. They won in overtime. That was quite a finish for the Cowboys over the Giants. But Matt Eberflus's defense gave up about 40 points to the Giants and Russell Wilson. The Giants shouldn't be scoring 40 points on anybody, but nonetheless, the Cowboys, Dak Prescott's playing at as high of a level as he has in several years. But Matt Eberflus will walk in here next Sunday afternoon, and oddly enough, Mully, he might find the defense in worse shape than when he left.
Well, I think it is in worse shape than when he left.
That's the irony. We didn't expect to be in this position 2 games in, and the defense being in shambles already.
Shambles.
Yep. And so you've got Ben Johnson, who I still think all the things that we have said about him still apply. It's just this job is going to be tougher than maybe he imagined.
Oh, boy.
They're further away than maybe people wanted them to be. And it's going to be a long road back. And what he thought he might have inherited was maybe closer to winning looks more like a rebuild.
It looks like a complete rebuild. And it looks like a rebuild that doesn't include nearly enough young talent, young drafted talent. You know, this is the kind of game where you can use reps almost as a preseason game when you get to the fourth quarter, and they chose not to do that.
Well, they did at one position. They did at the quarterback position, and that will get a lot of attention, and we'll discuss that.
And they did at the tackle position, the left tackle position, too. Didn't they take Braxton Jones out?
Yeah, but I think you looked at that was the only other left tackle they had dressed.
Yeah.
I think what you're alluding to, and I think it's a good conversation because it'll be the point of contention all week long. You know, the Bears' inactive list was full of Ryan Poles misses or hunches or bad hunches or guys who really haven't developed at the rate that they wanted them to when they drafted them. You know, Ozzie Chapillo, Shamar Turner, Karan Amagaji. You got guys like that. And then Luther Burden and Colson Loveland being ignored in the passing game. You've got 5 guys that are high draft picks over the last several years that, as you point out, if this is a true rebuild, you want to see those guys getting reps on the field sooner rather than later and as much as possible.
Yeah, that's exactly right, David. And it was very disheartening the way that game went. What was extraordinary is they were right up to a certain point in that game, despite all of everything that had gone wrong. At one point, it was 21-14. And it was funny because I was just kind of like, I when they scored the third touchdown, I was like, oh, gosh, it's going to be hard. And Olin was there, and he's like, this is okay because get a touchdown here, you go to the locker room, and you get the ball coming out, so you get right back in the game. But unfortunately, they did march down and get the touchdown, but they did it too fast. I know that's crazy, but they gave 2 minutes. They scored too fast. They
scored too quickly.
That's an old line.
What happened? John Shoup said they scored too fast 20 years ago.
That, believe it or not, That's kind of what you were left with because the Lions scored so easily.
It's not wrong, but the fault in that is not the scoring too fast. The fault in that is the defense not standing up. The way they handled the last minute of the first half was disappointing.
Yeah.
And frankly, I think emotionally they didn't recover from that.
Well, I don't think they
especially because the way the one-handed catch by the kid.
Oh, that was unbelievable.
Tesla
on the sideline, yeah.
And he made a tremendous catch, and then the mistake, apparent mistake by the officiating crew to put it back at 6 seconds, and then the Lions take advantage of that. You knew that was coming. You knew they were going to score. When you give them extra time, you can't give an offense like that an extra snap. And Amon-Ra St. Brown gets into the end zone. The Bears never really recovered from that.
No, they didn't.
That's a weak team. That's a weak-minded team. That's
listen,
a weak team overall, and you can't really let that happen and have that kind of impact on the game.
You know, David, we heard so much about how they were a physical football team and they were a tough football team. Did you see any of that? Did you see even a hint of it?
No, that was a problem. That was a problem. Their inability to move the line of scrimmage, and really nothing underscored that more than the lack of physicality and, frankly, the lack of imagination when they missed on 2 straight quarterback sneaks.
Well, that really was when the game probably got out of that. That was when you knew.
Well, that's when the Bears announced to everybody they were not going to be physical factors in this football game.
That's right.
When they couldn't get a yard. And you can put that on the quarterback if you wish, but this is not the quarterback you want to be sneaking with.
Well,
and I would think that your head coach and play caller extraordinaire would recognize that.
But that was the first thing I said. How many quarterback sneaks does he run?
I don't know.
He doesn't operate under
He's
center.
not Jalen Hurts.
So he probably didn't do many.
He's not
in
Josh
high school.
Allen.
I don't think he did any.
You're getting him
that
used
I can
to
remember
taking
in
the snap
college
from the center.
That's what I'm saying. And we were kind of confounded by that very fact. So you get the QB sneak on 3rd and 1. If you're going for it and you're going for it, isn't that where you get kind of creative? If you're going to be in 4th and 1, wouldn't you like them to run a play, like a little creativity?
I don't think you go back to the quarterback sneak after it was stopped on 3rd and 1. It was almost as if Ben Johnson was trying to prove a point.
Yeah.
I'm going to force feed this on my quarterback and make him get the yard.
But and then the one of the themes going in is that the Lions had all these players out of position on their line. Do we think the Bears line is playing well? Do we feel like that's the group?
The Bears offensive line?
The Bears offensive line.
Well, the biggest debate today,
if
you want to have a big picture debate about a football conversation, which is a bigger disappointment, the Bears defense or the Bears offensive line?
Yeah, the defensive line or the offensive line.
Yeah, either one of those you could be right.
These are supposed to be strengths. The coach
They're
told
not strengths.
That they were strengths.
These are weaknesses that have shown you how far away the Bears really are from competing in the division. The offensive line has not come together. These guys look vastly overpaid. And on defense, you just don't know what you're getting because they haven't pushed the line of scrimmage or gotten to the quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, listen.
It's all a mess.
It is all a mess.
It's all a mess.
And you add to that fact that the 2 players that you had that missed the opener and came back for the second game, both left the game with the same injuries. Which means, when will we see them again?
Well, re-aggravated the injury in T.J. Edwards' case, a hamstring. We'll talk to him at 8 o'clock, and maybe he'll tell us.
Will we talk to him?
Well, I assume he did play, and he is a pro. If we don't, we'll understand that maybe that suggests he's going to be out for a while.
Yes.
But we're planning to talk to him at 8 o'clock.
That's fair.
Jalen Johnson left the game, and he looked like he re-aggravated an injury, and it looked bad when he just lay flat on his stomach.
He apparently he had the groin and calf. Apparently it was the groin that was re-aggravated on that play. Hell of a play. Knocked the ball down.
Yeah, he made a nice play.
Yeah.
He made a nice play. They missed him when he was gone because it was open season in the secondary. It was wherever you want, however you want it. And they made Jared Goff look like a guy who was an MVP caliber quarterback again.
Boy.
Completing how many in a row? 16 in a row?
Listen,
did he get up to 16?
As we said, the theme going in was the return of Ben Johnson. The Lions had lost in Green Bay, and the feeling was they lost their coordinator. They didn't have the guy that could score the points. Jared Goff was sick of hearing about it, talked about it during the week. Amon-Ra St. Brown. The Lions were aware of that.
Brian Branch called it a betrayal.
Dan Campbell was aware of it. No, but they felt that they were just as good, and that I think it was
Well, offensively, you're right. Offensively, they felt like they were being slighted by the fact that great Ben Johnson has left the building, so
Yeah.
no longer can they score.
so
They went in there with an edge.
So we were talking at one point, like, did they run up the score on him? Which of course they did. They ran up the score on him. But Ben Johnson, was doing an onside kick late in the game.
Mully,
so he was
people
playing
will
into that.
People will ask about that and maybe act surprised about that. But Ben Johnson's exactly right, and he was right to be snippy post game when he was asked a question. Look, you've got an organization where he worked proudly for the last 3 years calling plays.
3 years,
and he uses that to get a head coaching job. Where he was just talking before the season, way back when, 2 games ago, about embarrassing opponents.
Yes, he was.
Before he had won a single game or scored a single touchdown,
Yes.
this dude was talking about embarrassing opponents.
Wait, what has the flower got in store for him?
But my point is that if he's got that kind of mindset, do you think that where he came from is going to back off because they have a 4th down and they could kick a field goal? No, they're going to score and they're going to try to embarrass their opponent.
Well,
Where do you think he learned it?
But I mean, they also were like, man, those fans were mean with the language. We should have just gotten a swear jar going, and we would have gotten a lot of money.
They went a little Eddie Vedder on him.
Oh my gosh!
The who was more profane this weekend, Lions fans or Eddie Vedder? Eddie Vedder on Marquee, or the Lions fans at Ford Field. But Ben Johnson should not have been surprised or offended that the Lions tried to score a touchdown late in that game.
Yeah,
they're gonna do whatever they need to do. But the Lions came in struggling and maybe without an identity with the new play caller, and they left feeling like one of the best teams in the NFC because Jared Goff was moving the ball around, the running game was clicking, the wide receivers were getting open, and that is a dangerous offense.
Yeah, I got to tell you, it was as bad a loss as I've seen in a while, and it was as thorough a defeat as I've seen in a while.
They haven't given up 52 points in 2014.
52 points.
We don't need to bring up 2014 again, ever.
Yeah, I hope not.
That's the season that could have had a mini-series. That's the season that was full of dysfunction and disappointment.
I remember.
It was awful. The last season of Mark Trestman, and should not resemble the first season of Ben Johnson. I did not see that coming. I have to say that. I thought the Bears would be more competitive. I thought they would struggle. We've talked about it all the time. They would see an uptick we have yet to see yet, but I didn't think they'd get embarrassed this year to that extent. Just didn't think so. I'm surprised they were. I'm surprised they were that soft on both sides of the line of scrimmage. Too easy to run the ball against.
They had a penalty on the first play of the game. They've had 20 penalties in 2 games. They trimmed their penalties.
Yeah.
But they still had 8 for 50 yards.
Thank you. That's unacceptable.
Unacceptable.
So we've been sitting here talking 15 minutes in kind of stream of consciousness about the Bears game, and people can call in and they will have their say.
Yes.
And they can pick on Caleb Williams and talk about what he did wrong. I have to say, he's far down on my list of problems right now.
Listen,
there are other problems.
Caleb Williams was better in week 2 than week 1. He was.
Yeah.
He played better in that game.
I don't disagree with that.
But what happened to everything around him?
He still has a ways to go, but around him, the offensive line has been
awful.
The
awful.
The receivers aren't really helping him out outside of Rome Odunze, but that could be a different problem. They don't have more than one running back.
They don't. They had so many of these young draft picks you're talking about that were on the inactive list.
Can you get a running back in the third round, please?
They managed to get the running back available. Roshan Johnson was apparently a healthy scratch. I mean, he's healthy.
You couldn't have used him?
You couldn't give him the ball on a short yardage situation?
Guy carried the ball accidentally.
Yeah, well,
the ball popped into his hand.
The ball. Yeah, he had a fumble. No, he didn't fumble. It was
he didn't. He hasn't fumbled since high school.
He didn't have a fumble.
That's why they drafted him.
He had a carry for negative yards, and then at the end in the fourth quarter, when I stopped taking a book, I think he ended up with.
I'm sorry, he ended up with 7 carries, 28 yards, but it was it was garbage time.
That's all that was.
You need a running back that can complement DeAndre Swift, who had a pretty good day. But you need a running back who you didn't draft one, so you didn't sign one, and I think that was an area of neglect. So we talk about the roster issues.
Oh, they got
which only exacerbate the problem with the game issues.
Oh boy, the game
and you can talk about Caleb Williams if you want, and we will. But there are other things that are higher priorities with the Chicago Bear outfit. It's a losing organization right now.
It's a terrible losing organization,
and they're trying to get out of that. And it's going to be
I don't know how they're going to
a more considerable climb than I think Ben Johnson imagined.
It's a huge job, and I'm not even talking about the coaching. I mean, it's just a huge job, a rebuild, as you said, a complete rebuild. Here's the other thing that occurred to me, and you feel free to not agree with me, but one of the things that was ringing through my head, and you mentioned earlier, Ben Johnson kind of talking some trash and showing some brashness when he was first hired. One of the things he said that I liked was the idea that he was seeking coaches from different systems and how do they answer so he's got, he's tapped into Sean Payton and he's tapped into Andy Reid and he's tapped into all these other organizations to get their input on. Maybe he should have tapped into more guys from Detroit. Would Hank Fraley have come here if you gave him like the assistant head coach?
They tried.
I know they tried. To hire him, but I'm just saying he looks like a really good coach right now.
The Lions
with their bad offensive
have
line
overcome any early issues maybe they might have had in replacing those coaches.
And so I'm just saying. You got a lot of different coaches from different.
You do.
Who is the guy? And everyone will say, "Well, it was Dennis Allen." But who is the guy that he can rely on from an offensive coaching standpoint? He's 39 years old. He's doing this for the first time.
Well, it's a good question, but I don't want to dismiss it, and I'm not dismissing it. I just think there are guys that you have to give time for this coaching staff to come together. It might be Rochard. It might be Antoine Randall. We don't know. We're not quite sure. They're finding their ways and their roles, and also figuring out how do they respond to a day like this. That's going to be you talk about how the team is going to respond. From the question you just asked, I'm curious how the staff is going to respond. The first meeting.
Well, I mean,
okay, Ben, what you got?
Someone's got to say, someone at some point has got to say, hey, maybe we should stop going for it on 4th down until we prove we can get a first down.
Or if we are going to go for it on 4th down, maybe we could come up with something more imaginative than a quarterback sneak because our offensive line can't move the pile.
Undisciplined. They had these penalties again. I'm just saying, we haven't, Flusie's coming back next weekend. Hey, what happened last year? Oh, I remember. Weren't they really undisciplined and how about all these players that went on every
this team is going to look familiar to Matt Eberflus
radio show they could find to say they wanted to get coached up and they really wanted to be coached up.
By the way, when is Kevin Byard's podcast this week? Can we ask him exactly what he does for a living? Because right now he is on borrowed time. I'm sorry. The guy is a great leader. He's a captain.
Baldy told us that during the week.
Brian Baldner told us last week that Kevin Byard can't run anymore. I thought, update. He can't tackle either.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Is that harsh? He can't. This is a liability. He was not making his presence known. Every time you notice Kevin Byard, it was late to the pile or missing on a tackle.
Yeah.
And that to me is just a big problem because the secondary needs difference makers. And you saw Tyreek Stevenson in chase way too often. Nashon Wright replacing Jalen Johnson and being exposed again.
Yeah.
Jaquan Brisker's on the team, right?
Tyreek Stevenson.
Is he still on the team?
Had a bad game. Listen, the Lions were running down the field and catching touchdown passes, okay? The explosive plays that you had heard about, they happened. They didn't happen for the Bears.
They happened. The Lions got well on the Bears' defense. They got right and redirected, and they look like an NFC Championship caliber team again. Meanwhile, the Vikings, a team that made the Bears look pedestrian Monday night at home and beat the Bears, they looked like they were lost against the Falcons. That makes the opening night loss hurt even more if it's possible.
I agree. Yeah, no,
we're just getting started.
We are just getting into the NFC North season. The Bears are 0-2.
Did we mention the Packers looked dominant the other night?
And meanwhile, the Packers looked different level. The Packers, they beat the Lions not quite as handily as the Lions beat the Bears. But if there's any doubt about the hierarchy of the division, I believe that was settled yesterday when they gave up 52 points and were destroyed.
Yeah, they're the Bears, and then they're everybody else in the division. And it's kind of how we suspected, because there's a huge gap, and it's widening between those three teams and the rest. And the Bears are the rest.
Yeah.